What's up, gaming heroes, and welcome back to another awesome World of Warcraft video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a subject I'm quite passionate about, which would be Mythic Plus and the toxicity that has been rising since, I would say, around Legion time. And it's probably at the all-time high right now that puts off tons of players away from playing this wonderful game. I want to shed some light on this and hopefully improve Mythic Plus for the better. If you want to check out my awesome merch store to get Dragon t-shirts like this one right here, then feel free to check the link in the description. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So we're heading over to the World of Warcraft general discussion forums once again, and this time the post we're looking at is Mythic Plus toxicity over the years. And the person who's opened this up is Soraka, and they have said, is it just me, or has Mythic Plus become more toxic since its initial release back in Legion? I've been enjoying the expansion for the most part, and I've decided to try some Mythic Plus again, since I skipped pretty much all of Shadowlands. First is first, I don't blame you for skipping Shadowlands at all. In terms of like expansions, Shadowlands was one of the worst I've ever played for World of Warcraft, but Dragonflight is definitely a huge improvement. They go on to say, I've noticed that it seems people have just no tolerance for accidents or patience anymore. A few examples I've recently ran into: Ruby life pools plus 13 DPS dies during Spiteful, tank has a mental breakdown and leaves the group. Ruby life pools plus 11 DPS isn't high enough apparently, so the healer just leaves. Shadow Moon Burial Grounds plus 12 group except myself died to Ner'zhul at 2%. The moment the tank died, he left. I did manage to kill Ner'zhul, making the timer barely. Azure Vaults plus 11, die to crystals on the final boss because no one was breaking them fast enough. Had a marksman hunter and an arcane mage, and I was an enhancement shaman. Asked them if they could kill far off crystals instead of saying no or yes, the hunter just flat out left. Today, Halls of Valor plus 14, tank pulls the first two mobs, DPS ranging 30 to 35k, because why pop cooldowns on mobs that legit do nothing but auto attack pretty much, wait until mystics and rune covers and groups of them more than two. Tank says low DPS and leaves. These are just a few cases, and being a DPS most of the time outside of Ruby life pools, it's normally my key getting depleted. I could understand if you were chain wiping to stupid crap. I could understand if you were wiping on tree bosses in Academy multiple times and not even coming close to killing him. But these are just minuscule things. Is it just my experience I've had, or has this just become more common for people to just leave after one death, poor DPS, not fast enough pulls, etc.? It didn't seem anywhere near as toxic in Legion and BFA. So I do have something to say in regards to this matter, and the reason this has become such a problem is Blizzard are doing nothing to fix it. The reason that in League of Legends the toxicity grew to be so bad at some certain stage is because Riot Games did nothing to fix. They eventually implemented something in the game to fix it, i.e. could have your account banned, etc, etc. That really fixed a lot of the toxicity. Now people try and get around this with using their made up own curse words and things like this, but that's okay, it is what it is. For the most part, there is absolutely zero, nada, no punishment whatsoever for ruining people's keys. There's no punishment whatsoever for people just leaving any key whenever they want to. There's no punishment at all for anyone in the game to misbehave at all. They can go and do what they want in the game because, in all likelihood and honesty, Blizzard are doing nothing about this. And I don't mean to be nasty to Blizzard, but it's just the general truth. Blizzard need to fix their toxic player mentality. This is up to the developers to fix this and community managers to implement a way to moderate the community on a whole. Now, I don't want to just say all these problems and then give no information in regard to what I'm saying here. I actually want to address this and say my suggestion to this. A bit like how in League of Legends, once you've had a game, you have the opportunity to appraise two of your teammates to say you were really good in this way, you were really good in that way. The same could be done in World of Warcraft. Instead of saying, oh, this guy left my key, and just be nasty about that person, you could instead appraise your teammates for all the positive things that they've done. And that positive reinforcement could easily be rewarded by just basic things such as a title to say the honorable blah blah blah, and this would symbolize that this person is a nicer person who's helped a lot of people in Mythic Plus, or has just done Mythic Plus and been a pleasure to play with, etc, etc. You could have easy titles to go along with these honor ranks of just being a positive player and being appraised by your fellow teammates once you've done a Mythic Plus. It wouldn't be very much difficulty. Blizzard could literally stick it up over here on the other side of the screen next to the Mythic Plus side where the quest log is, and just say, do you want to appraise anyone for high skill, great attitude, or general gameplay? And you can literally select 2 people from your group. That would be like a perfect way of literally just positively reinforcing that you should play as a nice person in dungeons. Now, this is where I want to go to the punishment aspect. The report system in World of Warcraft sucks. It absolutely sucks. It truly is one of the worst report systems I've ever experienced in a game. Now, the reason I say this is because there are hardly any categories that you can select that are relevant to your current situation. It has inappropriate communication. I mean, what if the person hasn't communicated but is trolling you in the dungeon? That's not inappropriate communication. That's just literally the guy is trolling you, or the girl, whoever it is trolling you in some way, shape, or form. They're doing it on purpose, and you should be able to report them. There should be a report feature that says, potentially bad gameplay. There should be a report feature that says, this person's leaving the dungeon is considered a leaver. And if that person keeps leaving dungeons, they should potentially get a 24-hour dungeon ban. If that keeps happening, i.e. if they keep ruining people's dungeon Mythic Plus keys, they should receive a 24-hour ban from dungeons activities. This sucks because they're paying for a game, but what they are not paying for is the privilege of ruining a community of players. And people seem to think that by paying for World of Warcraft on a monthly basis, this gives you a right to ruin other people's fun within the game. It does not. And that's why I think there should be more of a punishment for this type of toxic mentalities. Unfortunately, in life and real world generally, anytime we get a bit of adversity, a bit of challenge in anything, it's become the commonplace to run the opposite direction. Oh, there's a challenge there. I don't want to deal with a challenge. Forget that. See you later. And then off they go. Off they pop. See you later. They're not interested whatsoever in challenging themselves. They're not interested in overcoming a challenge. And that is what MMOs are all about. They're about the journey, the beginning, the destination, and the journey in between. That is what MMOs are all about, overcoming the hurdles, overcoming any difficulties in the game, and that's what we need to encourage more in Mythic Plus. It's a challenging environment. That's why it's got such great rewards. You need to challenge the players and encourage them to overcome these challenges. So to summarize, I would suggest to Blizzard to add in a positive reinforcement chart, which just allows you to honor to your teammates in Mythic Plus, and this will go towards that player having like a little badge next to the name when they sign up in looking for group that says that they are considered an honorable player. And if they don't have a badge, then you have a good indication that this person might be a bit more difficult to play with. And say if they've had a bunch of reports, maybe that badge could even turn a little bit red. Who knows? Either way, people should be made aware if someone's joining that they often leave people's dungeons, as it's not fair to the average player who only plays for like 2 or 3 hours a night. If they're trying to get on do a Mythic Plus and they're spending like 2 hours to trying to make the group, and then you get someone to leave, it's not fair to them, So that's the way I think about this. Back to the comments though, because I want to read some of these replies here to Soraka, as I'm sure there are some people who I've just wrote the most Chaos Grenade type replies and rebuttals. Paladina says, the entire planet became more toxic since Legion. Puya says, I'd say that a fair part of it is from esports mentality. Well, that's an interesting thought. Do you feel like the esports mentality is making players in World of Warcraft more toxic? I have no idea. Maybe it's got some sort of unintended consequence. I can't imagine there being like a huge amount of that, though. Maybe I'm wrong. Kelek says, 1, that tank that left the SBG is whack. 2, yeah, I think people were always toxic when it came to Mythic Plus. Just you only had to do like 1 or 2 a week. Now that people have to do more, it feels like they have to do 8. It shows more in pugs. I say, make friends, find a guild for Season 2. That way you can avoid BS like this. I agree with Kanak here. You should find a guild and you should find a group of players to play with. It's very difficult in this situation because there are so many people who say find a guild, but it's so hard to find a guild that you click with. And the problem is with a lot of guilds, there's like cliques made within the guild where players will join and they feel excluded from playing with them. Like there's one in my guild right now. There's a group of like hardcore players within the semi-hardcore guild, and they only play with each other. And it excludes some of the other players within the guild who then feel like they can't play at the same level as them because they're never being involved. I try my best to separate myself outside of those cliques and make sure that I try and help everyone within the guild. It's just difficult because you don't have time to do that with everyone. So, you know, it's not just easy as find a guild. You know, you gotta really put some time and effort into finding a group of players to play together. This is why we need a reform of the community guidelines for Mythic Plus. Grease Boss says there are more people that run Mythics that have not lost their humanity. They are more than the toxic Avengers. Just the bad ones stand out more. OP, you know this is true. I would completely disagree with that, Grease Boss, and I would go as far as to say I think you're completely dead wrong. I think if you do 10 Mythic Plus, you will find that 2 of them have positive players that like generally are quite nice to play with, who will push the group forward and help each other. 8 out of 10 are toxic, have a toxic mentality, and definitely push people to basically want to just quit. I mean, I was in one yesterday, a Knockhud plus 15, and it was really easy, to be honest. We were killing it, we were smashing it. I was doing like 180k DPS on like trash packs. I ended the dungeon with like 78k average DPS, and through that dungeon I had the tank. What was his name? I think his name was like Proclaps, and he wrote things like nice beam bro anytime I would use a beam because I wasn't using the beams enough and things like that. And this is because if I'm honest, the druid build wasn't including the beams up until about a week ago, and so I kind of fell out of the habit of using the beam. But that kind of like toxic, poking, nasty attitude, instead of saying, hey, can you use your solar beam more, was really frustrating and made me pissed off. But instead of following my emotions, I tried to separate myself, and instead I whispered the guy and said, hey dude, sorry I didn't use the beam. I'll use it more often. I'm trying to improve on the druid. And I just humbled myself instead. And that guy went, sorry, I didn't mean to come across like a prick when I spoke in the chat. And he was completely sound to play with for the rest of the dungeon. But it did require me to humble myself and to whisper someone like that, which I didn't want to do, but I did also want to get on well with people. So that's what I did. And I'm glad I did, because, you know, we got it done, and we got it done in time, and I got my Rage Feather trinket from that dungeon. Arinity says, so a handful of bad runs equals OMFG. The game is so toxic. Levers happened in Legion. Rage happened in Legion. Bad players happened in Legion. The WoW community's ability to glorify older expansions and put on a super extra thick nostalgia glasses is unparalleled. Arinity, I think you're a bit of a fool with how you've wrote this comment, if I'm honest. I think someone's brought up a really good point and you're taking it to the extreme and saying, so a handful of bad runs equals game being toxic. Well, it's not a handful of bad runs, it's the only runs this person's doing. I do a lot of Mythic Plus. I did 11 Mythic Plus like a day ago, right? And I tell you now, one of them was a positive run. One of them was a positive run. The others all had people who would say toxic things in the chat. And this is a very difficult thing to overcome. Blizzard are doing nothing to overcome this. And so it's not a very nice way of approaching the game. Arinity, I know you have the best at heart when you're saying this, but it doesn't help when people are trying to improve the game on a whole, when you say things in a really extreme way or make it seem like it's not a problem when it clearly is a problem. I do agree, players on a whole do put on their extra thick nostalgia glasses and look back in time at all the wonderful expansions, but ultimately it's hard to experience those now because you can only experience them in the time. Generally, try and be a nicer person in the forums. Someone says timers need to go or they need to loosen them up a bit. I don't think that will fix the problem. It's a toxicity problem within the community Blizzard needs to fix, not the actual timers or anything like that. It's encouraging people to overcome a challenge, not reducing the difficulty of the challenge. Reducing the difficulty of the challenge will just make the game easier and it will really put people off. Arinity then replies to that, nah, people just can play better. See, it's people like you, man, that completely just ruin my faith in humanity when it comes to trying to fix problems within World of Warcraft. Okay, this is a very, very interesting comment here from Bleach Tinny. Okay, Bleach Tinny. First is first. Hello, fellow WoW players! Mythic Plus has become a source of toxicity in the World of Warcraft community, with players becoming increasingly competitive and focused on their own individual progress. This has resulted in players being less willing to help each other, forming cliques and engaging in negative behavior such as trash talking and elitism. In a game that is supposed to be about teamwork and cooperation, the emphasis on individual performance within Mythic Plus is damaging to the spirit of the World of Warcraft community. Players are more focused on their own advancement rather than helping team members, and this has resulted in a lack of camaraderie and cooperation. Exactly what I'm saying about overcoming challenges. People aren't willing to work together because it's all about me, only I matter, it's Mythic Plus, only my own progress matters, everyone else, screw you, I'm gonna be toxic, there's no punishment for me so I can do what I want, I'm gonna leave. Additionally, the pressure to constantly improve and beat Mythic Plus scores has led to an unhealthy level of stress and anxiety for many players. The intense focus on performance has created a toxic environment. Players feel like they are being constantly judged and compared to others to carry on. It's important to remember that WoW is a game and is meant to be a source of enjoyment and relaxation. The toxic atmosphere created by Mythic Plus is having a negative impact on players and detracting from the overall experience of the game. I believe it's time for us as a community to reevaluate the role that Mythic Plus is playing in World of Warcraft and to take steps to address the toxic atmosphere it has created. Whether that means reducing the emphasis on individual performance or finding new ways to encourage cooperation and teamwork, we need to work together to create a more positive and enjoyable gaming environment. I think that Bleach Tinny has hit the nail on the head with this reply here. I absolutely love this. I generally do. Like, there's no way of expressing this in any other way, shape, or form. I absolutely adore what this person has said, and I really think that on a whole, they hit the nail on the head with this. This is exactly what I'm saying in the exact same way. I think that World of Warcraft Blizzard really need to come back and have a look at Mythic Plus and really figure out how can we push our players to want to play together more. They need to add in the whole positive appraisement of your players you've played with in Mythic Plus, and then give reward, even if it's a minute reward, as some sort of reward for people playing together in a nice way. We need to start reducing the positivity of being negative or leaving groups. Stop that way of thinking because it's completely unenjoyable. If I go into a Mythic Plus and I'm doing like a plus 16, plus 17, and for whatever reason we fail it, right? We know we failed. Halfway through, we've had a bunch of deaths, someone made a really bad error, and it just created a domino effect of errors. But then we kind of like overcame that error and we're like, right, we're just going to carry on. We're going to finish it anyway. So we finish the dungeon, and the rest of the dungeon goes really well. You know what? I love those dungeons. I absolutely love those dungeons. Yes, it sucks that I didn't complete it in time. It sucks that I'm not getting to get a lot of score from completing that in time. However, it's awesome that we overcame the challenge and it was enjoyable, and hey, we still get one piece of loot at least. That's what I like about doing Mythic Plus, where you overcome the timer, so to speak. This is the first time I've actually liked someone's reply in a forum post, so I've got to say, Bleach Titty, really good job there, man. Someone says, I agree, it's cool joining a guild and being very chill and relaxed, just watch out, some guilds are even worse than pugs. Agreed. Someone says, toxic entitled, take a Pepsi shot. Someone wrote a poem in the forums. I'm not going to read the poem. On a whole, I don't think there's anything else I can really add here by reading the rest of the comments. I've just had a brief glance through, and there's nothing new or over the top interesting about what people are saying. Generally, I feel like we covered everything with this post. Are Mythic Plus toxic? Yes. Can they be less toxic with a little bit of effort from Blizzard to fix it? Yes. Will Blizzard do this? We'll find out. But do you know what isn't toxic? These awesome dragon t-shirts that you can check out with the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to check out some awesome World of Warcraft guides, then check out these awesome Patreon guides over on erosiumtv.com. Thanks for watching. This is Erosium out, and I'll see you in the next one.